you controlling your breathing right now. Feel the power of you enjoying your greatest gift right now. That's you. That's your presence. That's your greatest power. Your power to determine to stay in the present, in the now, and be your true great being that you are.
In the night I lie and look up at you. When the morning comes I watch you rise. There's a paradise they couldn't capture, that bright infinity inside your eyes.
매일 밤 내게 날아가 꿈이란 것도 잊은 채 나 웃으며 너를 만나 Never ending forever baby.
어둠이 내게 편했었지. 길어진 그림자 속에서
And the fact that we can't be together Because we come from different sides. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make my whole light up inside. My universe, my universe, my universe. 나를 밝혀주는 건 너란 사랑으로 수놓아진 별. 내 우주에 넌 다른 세상을 만들어주는 걸. 너는 내 별이자 나의 호주니까 지금 이 시련도 결국엔 잠시니까 너는 언제까지나 지금처럼 밝게만 빛나줘. 우리는 너를 따라 이긴 밤을 수놓고 너와 함께 날아가. When I'm without you I'm crazy. 자 어서 내 손을 잡아. We are made of each other baby. You are my universe and I just want to put you first. You are my universe and you make the whole light up inside. My universe, my universe, my universe.
Rudiger has a go, let's fly! And scores a magnificent goal! Out to the moon!
Hi again, everybody. Today, Sadhguru shares his wisdom in his first rule, enhance your perception. So I want us to think about that. Enhance your perception. Your perception, the way you look at things, is not necessarily the way it is. In fact, it's not. It's simply all your life experiences, your what we call paradigms, your scripts, the things that have happened to you, the outside conditions, and how you've responded to this point. So let's work on enhancing our perception and using our intelligence. Like I said before, and what I believe is we are infinitely intelligent. We are created and seen and born in the likeness and image of God, source, universe, however you want to refer to this power. So enhancing our perception means we have to use the most powerful thing, our thoughts, to change the way we look at things. If you think there's a problem, that very thought is the problem. It's up to you. Have a great day, everybody.
Hello, everybody. I am so excited about this month's topic. The way that I want to approach this session is that I want this to almost be like me sharing my personal toolbox for how you can stay calm and focused and productive. And I've been thinking an awful lot about how we as human beings start to recognize or notice or pay more attention to the way that we're showing up, to our efficiency or productivity, but also to how we're feeling. And so we start with this recognition, and then we're going to talk about how to acknowledge it, whether it's a feeling, an emotion, a sensation, maybe a signal. And then lastly, how we act on those things. So those are going to be kind of the three main themes that we're going to walk through together. But first, let's talk about calm striving. So when I was preparing for this session and thinking about this theme, the first question that came to my mind, a question that I want for you to write down for yourself, is what is it that you are striving towards? So nowadays we are so constantly bombarded with this idea of hustle culture, more, do more, make more money, spend more time. And I have really taken a very different approach, both as an entrepreneur, but also as a mother and a wife and a leader. And calm striving is really, I was like, I need to adopt this as like a part of my brand, because I really believe that this is how I show up. This is how I've built what I've built, but also this is just how I live my life. And I love that this is a theme. So the first thing is like, when we're talking about striving, I think a lot of times we get frustrated or we feel like we're being complacent because we don't necessarily know what it is that we're striving towards. One of the things that I found time and time again in my own life is that we often set goals, but we don't actually revisit them. We don't check in with ourselves. Is this goal still in alignment with my values? Is this goal still reflective of where I want to go? Is this something worth striving for? Is this something that I actually want, or something that society or a mentor or a family member told me to go after? And so I think that is super important when we start on this topic, that we get really honest with ourselves and kind of check in on our goals that we might have, whether it's, career-based, family-based, relationship-based, health-based. Is this goal still in alignment with my values? So I always like to start there and work backwards. One of my gifts in life, I think it's been a gift of mine for a long time, and I'm not afraid to celebrate it, is I'm really good at reverse engineering something. So I start with the end result in mind, and then I take back the layers and say, what do I need to do to achieve this? Or what 3 steps are required for me to get there? How am I measuring my progress along the way? So I want us to begin, when we think about calm striving, what is it that we're striving towards? And I want us to get super specific on it. Like, go back to like the high school days where we talk about SMART goals, like specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. And I want us to look at those goals that we've set for ourselves. Maybe we set them on January 1st. Maybe it was a random Friday and we said we're going to start Monday, but making sure that those are in alignment with our values. I want to share a quick story because it kind of might help you to understand what this reverse engineering looks like. So I used to be a wedding photographer. That was my first stint as an entrepreneur. And I remember one day, I was scrolling on Instagram, where all great stories happen, right? And I saw this girl, this other photographer I'd followed, post this beautiful picture of a couple in front of the Eiffel Tower. And immediately I got envious. And I thought, man, I would do anything to shoot a wedding in Paris. Oh my gosh, she's so lucky. I'm never going to make it. And then I asked myself, what were all of the things that she had to do to shoot that wedding in France? And I recognized she had to probably apply for a work visa. She had to fly across the world. She had to change time zones. She had to haul all of her camera gear on her back in the airport. She had to show up when she was probably jet-lagged and exhausted. She had to navigate a different city with a different language. She had to do all of these things to get that end result. And I think a lot of times nowadays we see the end result. Social media is this highlight reel. It's this peer-reviewed journal that we put out into the world saying, look at me at my best. Look at how great my career is, or my family is, or my house is. But a lot of times as consumers, we don't actually stop long enough to reverse engineer, well, what would it take to do and end at that result? And am I even willing to do those things? And it was so funny because when I started realizing all of the things that went into just shooting a wedding in France, I was like, you know what? That bingo hall wedding in Wisconsin last weekend let me sleep in my own bed. I got to hang out on Sunday with my family. I didn't have to go to the airport or haul a bag across through all of the lines. And I recognized, wait, I don't need to strive towards that. That's not the goal that I want. Sure, that end result is beautiful, but that's not in alignment with my values. That's not something I actually really want to do. And so I want for you to think about those things, because a lot of times when I think about the word striving, we're often striving towards these things that we've been told to want versus what we actually want. And so when we get really clear on what is it that we are working towards and what are the steps necessary, and am I willing and able to take those steps, it makes the journey so much more fun. And I think we need more fun in our lives. So one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is the long game. When we talk about goals, when we think about personal development, when we think about growth, we get really focused on immediate wins. We are humans that have things like Instacart or Grubhub. We can literally get a latte delivered to our house within 5 minutes. We're instantaneous people who love to stream things live. We get mad if it takes more than a minute to load a page. But I've been thinking a lot about the long game. And really, when you think about it, the long game is life. And so when we think about things like career, family, legacy, we get so caught up in these short-term goals or gains that we often abandon all of the things that are truly most important to us. How many of you found yourself, as the world shifted as we knew it, kind of asking yourself these questions like, am I happy? Am I exhausted? Like, what does my soul need? Is this worth it? I think a lot of us started asking ourselves these questions, and I hope and pray that you started to recognize, like, the long game is life. Short-term wins are really great for us in terms of building up our confidence, gaining momentum. But when we look at this pursuit, this chase, this endeavor, this striving, I want us to look at it in terms of like living a full life, in not just abandoning our here and now so that maybe someday we can have a brighter future, but in adopting this energy that says, I like what I'm about to do today. I'm proud of it. It's moving me forward, but it's doing so at a pace that gives me the longevity necessary to actually enjoy life.
Morning, everybody. Last night, I had the pleasure of going to see Raymond Aaron and another amazing presentation on the importance of finding a mentor or finding mentors for our life. We might be feeling that this path to personal growth and development, which is never ending, might be a little bit intimidating. Or you might come on here and watch me do these videos and you think, well, this all sounds good, Nick, but how can I apply it to my life? Where do I begin? Or maybe there's thoughts in your head that you don't even want to begin because it seems overwhelming. Well, it's the day-to-day and step-by-step process that we have to enjoy, but we can't do it on our own. So we have to look at people that have done it and are continuing to do it every single day. So we need mentors. We need at least one mentor and perhaps many in different aspects of life. Even the greats like Raymond Aaron still do it. Have a great day, everybody.
Even though we all love money and food and drink and all these other things, the three things that are consistent are fulfillment, purpose, and happiness. You have Believe. My mission is find a way to give more happiness to people by allowing them to do, certainly in their career or mission, what they want to do, where they want, when they want, and do it how they want to do it. You have Movement Makers, like a community name, kind of thinking about breakthrough builders.
Going broad is the hardest game, the slowest game, but the most sustainable game. So winning on YouTube, for example, it's the hardest to get going because people don't know who you are yet. You got to build your brand. And a lot of people, they quit along the way because for that to become something that's financially feasible to support you, most people quit because they need to pay the bills. So that's why figuring out how can we make money while we're building the brand is a lot more critical.
I have some blue lights flashing in my head so I can go away and look at.
What's a blue light flashing?
Just
Is that another
good news.
thing?
Yeah, just good news. It's not a red light. A red light would be this is bad news.
Blue light is good
Just
news?
the blue light is.
Is that a
okay,
British thing? Are you making it up, or am I just?
I'm just making it up.
You're making
yeah.
it up? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I'm like, I need a pen and paper now.
Blue means go. Perfect.
Yeah,
love
I don't
it.
want to miss any of this stuff.
All right, we got James in the house. Movement Makers came all the way to Toronto to do a one-on-one. So, what's on your mind, man? How can I help?
Well, there's a lot on my mind. See, but maybe give you some background. I don't know if that would help.
Yeah,
Just to kind of talk about the journey. So for the last 2.5 years, I've been coaching and consulting with different organizations and individuals. And the first business I built for myself trapped me.
Okay.
So I did the classic entrepreneur of sign a bunch of clients up, not be able to build the systems or the operational background to support them. While that became a strain, I also didn't enjoy the work. So I was teaching people to build their businesses from zero to hero, if you like. And I didn't actually think about enough my ideal customer. And so I signed up customers who drained my energy. And so it was difficult for me to then let go of the business because I built it to a point where people would approach me, they would ask me to help them, but I was trying to back out. So by the end of 2021, I was really backpedaling out of the business and thinking about what am I going to do now? Because while this is not a failure, it's made hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is not what I want to do. It's not the dream I had for myself when I thought about a fulfilling and free life. I wanted to do the things I loved with the people I wanted, when I wanted, where I wanted, and it was none of those things. It tended to trap me in the house, in my little home office, and I needed to find a way to kind of break out of that. So my solution was, stop. Don't fix this. If you're not enjoying it, seek joy, close this down. And so by April 2021 I kind of let go of my final client, transitioned her into another coach's environment so she could be taken care of. And then I went into, okay, what's next? September 22, I was like, oh, okay, I know it's just to take one step towards corporate life, back to the people where I know them the most, I've got the biggest network, and I can help them navigate their careers rather than help people build businesses. Even though I have that skill set now, help people with their career, whatever it is they want to do. So I called it Career and Mission Growth, and I just help people grow, transition, transform to whatever the next for them. And for most people, even though we all love money and food and drink and all these other things, the three things that are consistent are fulfillment, purpose, and happiness. So what I'll hear routinely over and over with every client or prospect I speak to is they're the three things they want.
Yeah.
So my mission, like you have believe, my mission is to find a way to give more happiness to people by allowing them to do, certainly in their career or mission, what they want to do, where they want, when they want, and do it how they want to do it. And so that's what I'm working on.
I love it. It's
Now-
cool. Harder to do in the corporate environment for sure, but I love it. I think so many people in corporate are not feeling fulfilled and happy and on mission and are struggling, so they need you.
Yeah. It's been my early experience is the amount of pain and denial going on. But I was also that person. That's
Yeah.
a younger version of me. As a general manager of a large software company, I felt those emotions. And I also lived in denial. And so it wasn't until I invested in my own coaching. I worked with someone we both know, Brendan Bouchard. He was kind of my coach. And spent a year in his company, but also working with his coaches and figuring out personally what was it for me and how could I develop myself professionally. And at the back of that, it was like, okay, now I know how to take care of me, and I've got to make some bold moves. And so I had to make that bold move of leaving the attractive salary. And a lot of my clients, we talk about it as the check in the chair. You get trapped by that salary and the dining room you don't use and the double garage you don't use and just all the niceties of being on a corporate ladder. But the day-by-day grind of operationally being in those environments, most people are not enjoying that. And so my mission is to help free them from that. They can enjoy that in that environment. And I became certainly a lot more carefree with coaching than when I was not being coached. So when I was not being coached, it was all about the external world. But when I was being coached, it was all about me. So I need to take care of what I can control, and then what can I influence that's going to make a difference in my external world so I don't feel grotty.
What's grotty?
Grotty? That's a British word for misery.
Okay, perfect. I'm learning something new. Great. Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, how can I help? Where are you at? What can I give you some feedback on?
So I launched an on-demand course in November. So Black Friday, I ran a little promo for that week to get a few clients in to see if people would buy this in an on-demand environment. And so 3 people did, and then one of those people transferred to a one-to-one coaching environment with me. And so that was the beginnings of, okay, I can replicate the successes of the first business in this business on a one-to-one model. So let's test how many one-to-one clients could I get. And so January she signed up. And since that time, I've added another 15 people who are all on a 90-day, 12-week program. My challenge now is one of time. How do I transition this to a one-to-many model? How do I balance the business so the way that it doesn't do what the first business to me, which is constrain me?
Yeah.
I'm now looking for solutions to what's the transition path for me to go to a one-to-many model. Do my clients want that in the format? And then what are the things I need to build to make that successful? So operationally, how do I need to do that? But what does the product need to look like? I saw you talk about Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, and I love Dan Sullivan and what Bab Sullivan, what they've done in their environment to create this one-to-many environment. I always think maybe that's where I'll be, where Dan is in his 70s, I'll be in my 70s, having this legacy of there's all of this free content of how you do this, and on a one-to-many basis, but there is this ability to be close in mastermind groups. So I'd love to be able to figure that transition out now from one-to-one for what I'm doing. How do I take it one-to-many? How do I create masterminds? I'd love to do a live event and pull everybody I've ever worked with together, maybe in Dallas or another city, and think about how do we just give them 2 days of excellent value while we're there so they walk away and they are in charge of their career and their mission, and they know for themselves and for their families exactly where they're going.
Awesome. So there's a couple ways to do it, and then which one you pick is really a hard question. Which one do you want to do? Because which one could work? All of them. Which one will work is the one that you actually feel most aligned to and connected with. So option 1 is you just keep going as you're going and you keep increasing your prices, which then you limit who you can work with. It's going to now become, C-suite or up and coming to be able to afford your rates because now you're going up. That's inherently limited. Whatever your upper cap is, 20 clients at a time, 30 clients at a time, but you're not doing 400 clients one-on-one at a time, just not feasible. But there's an upper limit to that. So you could build a $300,000-$400,000 a year consulting business as a solo entrepreneur with one or two kind of virtual people on your team, and it's highly profitable. It can be highly fulfilling. It's not scaled.
You
it's
just
not-
described the first business and the way this is going.
Yeah.
That's where it will land.
Yeah.
I already predicted. That's exactly the size, the shape, and how it will operate.
And it's a great starting point because now you have money coming in. So you're not just, I don't know where money's coming from, right? So now you've got that. So great. And for some people, that's actually enough. For some people, once they hit $300,000-$400,000 a year, their ambition shrinks. It's like, you know, this is actually a pretty good life. And so no judgment, you know, if that's what you actually want to create. But you've already been there before, you know that that's not what you want to create.
Nope.
So that's step one. Two is you find a way to, if you want to keep a small number of clients, you find a way to tack on to their success. It's a little harder in the corporate world. In the entrepreneurial world, it's like you take a piece of their business. So you keep working with the 20 people, 30 people, but you're going to own 5% of the company. And that's how you scale, because as they grow their businesses, you own 5% of this business. And so you meeting with them once a week or every 2 weeks or whatever the cadence is going to be has much higher upside because you have that equity piece. You could still take your fees for coaching them, but it's fee plus equity, and the equity is the real upside.
Okay.
In the corporate world's harder because there's no business, but does it tie to performance, percentage of salary, if they get an upgrade, if they get a raise, do you get a piece of the raise kind of thing? Like you're basically with them for longer than a 90-day period. You're picking horses to bet on to say, I love these people and I want to work with them for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This be real? It's like I'm living a dream, but it's how everyone feels. We all unite with one feel. So let's wave our hands. We can sing, we can dance. We are strong, hold on tight. From afar we unite. Here we go, this is the time of our lives. Here we go, this is the time of our lives. This is the time of our lives. Here we go, this is the time of our lives. Here we go, this is the time of our lives. I love this moment right now. No one can take it away. So let it happen and how. It's why I cherish each day. So let's wave our hands. We can sing, we can dance. We are strong, hold on tight. From afar we unite.
Here we go.
Here we go, this is the time of our lives. Here we go, this is the time of our lives. Here we go, this is the time of our lives. Here we go, this is the time of our lives.
Again, everybody, today Satguru shares another top 10 rule for success, and that is this: take a holiday from seriousness. And I love this, and I know it's something that I need to work on. I tend to be an intense person. I want to get better. I want to always be the best I can be, but I got to remember to also relax and just realize that this path to personal growth and development is never ending. It is extremely hard. I'd say maybe 95 to 98% of the world doesn't even want to try to get on that path of infinite mind wealth because it is so intimidating. However, we got to enjoy the moments to moments. We got to enjoy when we make mistakes, because that's how we know we're getting closer. And we got to be able to laugh at ourselves. And I think this is one thing I got to work on. So if you're feeling intimidated, you don't know where to begin, laugh at yourself as you try to even begin, and just really enjoy and appreciate yourself. Have a great day, everybody.
Overcome procrastination can help you deal with things like overthinking as it relates to procrastination and lack of motivation as well. If you recall, a peak in dopamine is followed by a trough in dopamine. That trough in dopamine is experienced as pain or wanting or craving. That pain that I'm referring to is actually a craving or a wanting, and it's a craving or wanting for a specific state that you would like to achieve that is different than the one that you're in. You want to get out of that trough. That trough is the stimulus for the ongoing release of dopamine that provides the propeller, the motivation to go forward and seek some goal. So when we are not motivated, when we are in a so-called amotivated state, the key to getting out of that pain trough is one of two things. You can just wait, you can wait till your motivation comes back, and a lot of people do wait. In fact, they procrastinate as a replacement for doing the very thing that they quote unquote need to do or ought to do, and that they're procrastinating to do. What's interesting about this dynamic is, first of all, it's extremely common. And second of all, a lot of people will use this as a tactic so that they get very close to the deadline to complete something, and then they go into a sort of pseudo panic and then use anxiety as a way to leverage their mental and physical resources to complete that thing.
Need motivation?
Watch a top 10 with
Believe Nation. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to stay afloat. I quit on my business partner, and the thing that kept me motivated, that kept me going, was studying the stories of famous, successful entrepreneurs. And in their stories, it gave me the hope, the drive, the ambition, the thinking that maybe I can do it too, that extra bit of belief. And I still need their stories today, and I'm honored to share them with you here as well. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Andrew Huberman, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy.
In any case, I'm very familiar with the procrastination process. So how can we overcome procrastination? Well, it turns out that there are findings from within the addiction literature that turn out to be very powerful towards leveraging our way out of procrastination. And it has to do with this. You already know, because I've told you probably a dozen times now, that the depth of the trough after a dopamine peak is proportional to how high that peak was and how steep it was, how quickly that peak occurred. It turns out that not only is the depth of the trough proportional to that, but the rate at which you get out of that trough is proportional to how steep that trough is. Let me explain this for you in as clear terms as I possibly can. Imagine you're in an amotivated state. You're just not feeling motivated. You're procrastinating. You may think, okay, the thing to do here is something. I'll clean the house. I'll take care of some bills. I'll do something. Or I'll just wait. Those approaches, as we talked about before, generally don't work, or at least don't work quickly, or they lead you right up to the deadline, and that's the deadline that forces you to get something done, or you just don't get it done and you don't succeed in your goal. That happens a lot as well. However, if you were to take that state of being unmotivated, of procrastinating, and actually do something that's harder than being in that amotivated state, in other words, doing something that's more effortful, even painful, you can rebound yourself out of that dopamine trough much more quickly. So what do I mean you want to put yourself in a state that's worse than or harder than the state that you're in, or do something quote unquote more painful? And here I want to be very clear. I'll say this 3 times, but I'm going to say it for the first time now. When I say more painful, I do not mean doing any kind of tissue damaging or psychologically damaging behavior or anything of that sort that's going to render you injured or not well, even in the short term. That's not what I'm referring to, okay? Let's just get that one out of the way. What I'm referring to is the fact that, for instance, if you're feeling amotivated, but you find yourself cleaning the house as a way to procrastinate, you could say, well, cleaning the house is harder than sitting down and doing nothing. But actually, in that moment or in those moments, that's not the case, or else you wouldn't be doing it. The reality is that the dopamine system works according to what feels hard or easy in the moment. In other words, if you're feeling amotivated, you need to do something and put yourself into a state that's harder than the state you're in.
Rule number 2 is get quality sleep.
We end. Well, quote unquote, we never really end. We now focus on our breathing. Back straight, eyes closed, legs crossed. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel that power that you're using to control your breathing. That's your connection to oneness, to what we all really are, to the truth